Far too many times I've had to investigate crimes, report on crimes that didn't have to happen, where a killer or a predator should have been locked up, should have been in prison, but instead was allowed out to commit a heinous crime. And that is exactly what has happened in the cold-blooded killing of Logan Federico, 22-year-old woman who was visiting friends at college in South Carolina, specifically Columbia, near the University of South Carolina. Last May, a man named Alexander Dickey broke into the home where she was staying and executed her for no good reason. You may have heard about this story. Logan's father, Steve Federico, has been very vocal about what should have happened to Dickey, and he testified recently in front of a U.S. House Judiciary Committee hearing. And Steve is kind enough to join me now and have a seat with me to talk about all of this. Steve, thank you for being with me.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you keeping Logan's story on.
Well, no parent should have to go through this. There's a part of me that wishes we've never met, but, here we are.
Yep.
Tell me about Logan. How would you describe your daughter?
Oh, man. Honestly, she just was a full of energy, spitfire, attitude. Most of all, she was loyal. She was a great friend to a lot of people, understanding. She had a big heart, great ear to listen. But one of her best traits was, and I've said this a ton, is she fought for the underdogs. Those kids in school or anywhere that just weren't popular enough to fit in with some of the popular groups. She would draw people like that in. If there was a freshman in a senior class by chance after COVID that felt kind of awkward, Logan would purposely introduce herself to her and kind of introduce her to a lot of people to kind of make that person feel at home and try to take the awkwardness out of it.
And what was she doing that particular weekend in Columbia? I understand that she was visiting some college friends who went to school there. Tell me about the visit, and did you know she was going?
Yeah, I mean, one great thing about both our kids is we were all on the same page, and they told us everything that they were doing, where they were going to be, who they were with. So she was visiting, and she was doing exactly what she did probably once a month, visiting friends at colleges. Whether it was University of South Carolina, Clemson, App State, UNC Charlotte. She just had a ton of friends, more than we ever knew, to be honest with you. And she left. She was supposed to go down that Thursday, but a guy she was dating was stuck in Charleston. So they decided that they would see each other on that Friday, which makes it even more heart-wrenching that she wasn't even supposed to be there, because she would have been home Friday to go to her job at a local bar restaurant that she worked out called Carolina Steel. But plans have changed, and I was at a Division II baseball game with one of my best friends watching his son play down in Rock Hill. And we were chatting back and forth on Thursdays. She wasn't going, and she wound up spending some quality time with her mom on that Thursday, watching some movies, which was kind of cool. And then I guess around 2:30 Friday, the second, I guess, she left for USC just to kind of hook up with her friends, and was supposed to be home the next day around 2-ish to go to work.
How did
and
this?
Never came home.
I mean, my heart breaks for you, Stephen. I mean, it just, as a parent myself, and my kids are older now, but I remember those days when they'd be visiting other kids at different schools. And, we did the same thing growing up. And there should not be this level of danger for kids just doing what kids do. And I'm sure you're still getting your arms around the law.
There shouldn't be this level of danger for anyone, not just kids, but anyone. That's the big problem. Is this danger is for every innocent person out there. My daughter just happened to be a victim at a college visiting friends, but this danger is everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And the system fails people all the time, and it has to stop somehow. It just has to.
How did this convicted criminal Alexander Dickey's life collide with your daughter Logan's life? What happened, as best as you can tell?
Yeah, that is a great way to put it. It was a colossal collision, and the way it took place was, I hate to say this. Actually, I don't hate to say it. I'm proud to say it, because more information we find out, the better, and the better the way we can change things. But you know, he was a career criminal starting at, I think, at age 15, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had his first arrest in 2013.
Correct. Yes.
He's only 30 years old. So we had 39 crimes. And I think he's, so far to date, the information that we keep getting as we peel the onion, I think he had over 48 to 70 actual charges that at some point were dropped down. But the biggest issue, how he didn't meet Logan, is that he never did any significant prison time. Okay. 25 of his crimes were felonies. And after I've talked to a few people, if you added all the time up that he should have spent in prison for there, it would have been over 140 years. His last case, I think in 23 or 24, where he was arrested for an armed burglary, alone should have put him in prison for another 15 to 20 years, because he's a convicted felon with a weapon. But somehow that got pled down to a first offense because of some poor record keeping, which is kind of just an excuse, because it took an investigative reporter in Colombia 10 minutes to find out what his rap sheet was. It was literally 40 pages long, Chris. Literally 40 pages long.
48 crimes, at least 48 crimes, Steve, on 14 occasions, 31 felonies, violent crimes. There is no question that Alexander Dickey was a habitual offender and should have qualified for life imprisonment.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the sad part. And Alexander pulled the trigger, but Richland County and Lexington County and the state of South Carolina, they are complicit in the murder execution style of Logan, without a doubt. Without a doubt. This Chris, this was 1,000% preventable. Somebody really just had to pay attention. Their systems don't talk. The solicitors don't work with each other. It's a disaster. Down there, they do things a little differently. The judges were horrible. The judges I think they're appointed or nominated by trial judges in their legislative branch. So these people that put these judges into the seats are actually trying cases in front of them.
He violated parole.
Yeah.
Which means all the judge had to say was, you're in violation, you're going to prison, and that's the end of it.
Well, how about,
it would have been that simple.
There's one judge that he stood in front of, I think 4 or 5 times, we're finding out, right? And he let him out of prison after 411 days, where he should have been in prison for 5 years. He would have never met Logan in 2025, because in 2023 or 2024, he would have been doing 5 years of prison, although he should have been doing many more years, a lifetime, like you said. I agree 1,000% with you.
This is probably a question more appropriate for law enforcement detectives, but Steve, what did he do to your daughter?
From what I've been told, when he entered her room, Logan may have woken up and startled him, and he forced her out of bed naked. He demanded he got on her knees. He had her hands in front of her, above her. From what I understand, and when I was my daughter, she was pleading for her life, calling for me. I was her hero, her dad. Stole her debit card. And he stuck a 12-gauge shotgun in her left rib cage, underneath her left breast, and pulled the trigger. And that was it. She was gone.
For what? For an ATM card?
$260-some. And all signs say she gave it to him.
And he broke into the house.
Eh, I don't like to use word broken in because it was there were two frat houses involved, private homes that were rented by frat brothers that admittedly never locked the doors. So we kind of walked in.
But that's the way college kids live, you know? That's the way I lived in college. You probably did the same thing. Nobody feels that they have to lock their door because a homicidal, shotgun wielding career criminal is going to walk in and take your life. You shouldn't have to think that way. And that's what's so particularly bothersome about this case. I mean, yeah, of course you lost your daughter and it's horrible, but I mean, kids should not have to worry about this.
Well, Chris, we live in different times now. I mean, and this is the way it's been for a long time now. Way before you were in college and I was in school. Um, it may have been acceptable to do that, and I understand that, but I would argue that times have changed, and people need to realize that when you're at college or you're on vacation, it's vacation, but crime happens wherever you're at. And you have to be on your toes. You have to have your head on a swivel. Now, Logan never had a chance. Okay, this guy stepped into the first house, stole everything he could, and also stole a loaded shotgun that was in the house. So maybe the house should have been locked.
Well, he wouldn't have had the shotgun. Is this, Steve, a South Carolina problem, a local law enforcement problem, a county problem, an American problem? Where do we even start here?
This is a nationwide problem, but the first order of business is to get South Carolina kind of in line with a lot of the other states. But national attention is where we're going. National laws is where we're going with it. Um, there has to be a national database of some sort that talks to everyone. That you could be in Alaska and get arrested, and people should know you got arrested in North Carolina or arrested in Pennsylvania. South Carolina is way behind the times in a lot of stuff. And I will make this perfectly clear. So far, what I understand now, as far as Logan's case, this has nothing to do with boots on the ground. And they're just as frustrated that criminals get put on the street within 24 hours of an arrest, and they're arresting the same people again and again. When they were searching for Alexander Dickey, we had played a big part in that because we would get emails concerning Logan's checking account where her card was tied to about being overdrawn. We gave that to one of the officers, Officer McCoy, and obviously he put that out there where he was spending her money probably an hour and a half after he executed her. That's how callous he is and what a piece of shit he is, to be honest with you. Excuse my language.
Understandable.
But had no remorse whatsoever. And really, from what I'm being told happened was they saw his face on video, and he'd been arrested so many times, they knew exactly who he was. There wasn't a question. There was an identity taken right then and there when they saw him. That's Alexander Dickey. We know where he is, and started looking.
And they made the arrest.
Yeah. 36 hours later, these officers worked 36 hours straight, and I can't commend them enough. A lot
seems that that's, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
A lot of victims' parents and family members aren't lucky, and I hate to use that word, lucky, like we are. Our daughter's assassin was caught, and he's off the street. But what you have to really is fearful, Chris, is the justice system that failed Logan. How many other Alexander Dickeys are out there?
Well, that's the scary part of it because we don't know. I mean, you can go through the list and say, okay, look who's on probation, who's on parole, who's on the registered sex offender list, all of those databases that we have at our fingertips. But, sadly, they're living in the shadows until they commit a horrific crime like was committed in your daughter's case.
It's like living in Gotham anymore, to be honest with you. And what people need to realize is this, and I've gotten quite familiar with statistics, and I looked up a lot of statistics, and we could do a lot with crime because most of it is by reoffenders. the stats show that when prisoners are released after 3 years, 66% of them within 3 years are rearrested and re-put and reincarcerated. After 6 years, that jumps up to 78%. And within, I think, 9 years it's like 82%. So if you look at the data, most of the crimes being committed are from people that have been committing crimes all their life and they're just reoffenders. So imagine what it would look like if we just kept them in prison longer, actually put them in prison, but kept them in prison long enough maybe for rehabilitation to work, which I don't particularly believe in. And I think the people that can be rehabilitated, honestly, are going to suffer from this. But I'm all for putting them in prison where they age out of being able to commit a crime.
To what extent do you blame the judges in these cases, judges who could have put him back in prison but agreed to rather lenient, it would appear, plea deals and let him go? I mean, was there some extenuating circumstance where there wasn't a spot in the county jail or prison to put him? I mean, I just don't understand the leniency of these judges knowing this guy's habitual criminal record.
Yeah, and listen, we're peeling the onion on that, and we're finding at least two judges so far that Mr. Dickey was in front of them quite often. Okay, so it's not like they didn't know who he was. And I will tell you this: it is 1,000% the judge's fault. There's no other way Alexander Dickey is on the street. It's the final say of the judges, and I don't know about the solicitors. We'll have to see, and we're looking at it now to see who okayed some deals or who recommended deals. But it's to my understanding that it is the judge's discretion to set sentencing, and we have at least two that either ignored the parameters set forth for Alexander Dickey, which a lot of local judges and appointed judges do. They don't pay attention to the parameters that are set forth to that. So the one judge literally knew he could have put him away for actually 10 years and ignored it and let him go after 411 days. I mean, like you said earlier, probation violation after probation violation. This is a convicted criminal that had a gun. There's federal charges that should be involved, and that's probably why we want this to be a federal case. But Alexander Dickey is the poster child for what is wrong, I believe, with people that believe in soft crime. No cash bail. And no immediate jail term. I just this is proof pudding. Logan is the child of wrongful soft laws.
You testified in front of a U.S. House committee recently, and you were very vocal, Steve, about changes you wanted to see. What message did you want to get across to the congressman in that case?
And it was a lot of congressmen obviously are fighting for Logan. And there was some other Congress people there. One that didn't know who Logan was. They're fighting more for funds and money and saying it's all these separate problems, which it could be. That we do need more DAs. We need more prisons. So back to your point of making, did they have nowhere else to put them? If you take a look at the case of Irene here in Charlotte, where I live, what they're saying is that he has had a history of mental illness, but there was no place to put him. I'll tell you, the one place you can't put him, and people like this and people like Alexander Dickey, is back on the street. So we need more prisons. We need more cells. We need more mental institutions to put people until you can figure out how to try them. But the message to these people is look at my daughter. Look at what this caused. And it didn't have to. All he had to do was be in prison anytime after 2017 where it was warranted for him to do 25 to 30 years in prison.
It would seem that prison is exactly what this guy deserved. I mean, that's why they design prisons is for habitual criminals like this. I mean, this is where he belongs. What do you think, Steve, at this point, given all the failings of the criminal justice system in this case, what do you think would represent justice in this case?
Well, two things. I spoke about what you just said there, about what he deserved. You know, we build prisons and we have laws for a reason, right? And they're supposed to be able to rehabilitate criminals. Okay. But you would actually have to put them in prison to see if they actually work. And then you have to have a close knit system in the prison system to see if they actually are rehabilitated. Most criminals are cons. Okay. And they know how to play the law, they know how to work it. Okay. That's plain as simple. I'm sorry. What was your second question?
I mean, it's just, you know, what would represent justice in this case for Logan?
Well, point blank, we've already asked it, the death penalty, without a doubt. And that's what Logan would want. It's not about, obviously, we're our parents and families and friends, but Logan and I spoke often. Logan and I had a very unique relationship. She knew she could talk to me about anything, and we talked politics, we talked anything. But, you know, Logan was a person that would forgive and forgive, but never forget, but also thought everybody should be held accountable properly for what they have done. You know, I don't like the phrase eye for an eye. I think this is justifiable vengeance. I think Alexander Dickey executed Logan, and just by the style he did it, it's the exact word to use. Logan was an innocent person that did commit a crime and got executed. Alexander Dickey, aside from his 70 other charges or whatever they were, besides that, executed Logan. And the only justice that fits the crime is death, period.
I don't think you're going to get many people debate you on that. Steve, what do you want Logan's legacy to be?
You know, I want to make Logan's legacy. I mean, she's already known as a very obviously beautiful Southern belle, you know, lovable, caring, free spirit. But her legacy is going to have to be now what federal laws we can put into place, like a Logan's Law, Logan's Act, that we can tweak, or states have to pay attention to it. Her legacy has to be that she makes change in South Carolina and the way they pick their judges. There has to be change in the laws and the parameters of whose case gets tried first. I think career criminals, violent criminals, shouldn't wait 8 years to get seen in front of a judge. I think that's an immediate trial. How long it takes to investigate it, yes, but I think Logan's legacy is going to change the course of the United States, the course of America, the course of our country, the states we have in it, the counties, the districts. I think it has to. I think Logan's name will resonate with law and order. I really do. I have millions of people that care about this, millions of people that have contacted me via social media or commented on it that are angry, Chris, not only just because of Logan, but how it happened and why it happened. Everybody feels the same way I do, Chris. The judicial branch down in South Carolina caused Logan's death.
I don't, anybody who's not angry over this case doesn't have emotions, doesn't understand how the criminal justice system failed here. I mean,
Right.
The moment I saw this, and again, you know, my threshold for, you know, being outraged is pretty high based upon everything I've seen and, you know, being a reporter for this many years. But it just, you talk about just the absolute failure of the justice system at every level here.
Yeah. I mean, every level. When you say every level, I'm not so. Listen, I don't know about his arrest yet. We obviously, I have a team of some AI experts. I have a team of police officers. I've got some FBI guys that want to get in touch with us. But right now, we have a team that's investigating everything, every possible record that we can find that was tied to Alexander Dickey. You know, Attorney General Alan Wilson has also launching an investigation of Alexander Dickey and how he was on the street. So if it was bad policing, did the solicitors drop the case because, hey, the evidence wasn't there? Did they say, hey, you go get me more evidence and we'll prosecute this guy? Or were there plea deals made, which we know there were? Um, if he had 14 offenses for one crime, they dropped 13 if he accepted one. Okay. If the judge just said, screw you, I'm not paying attention to any recommendations, and just went out on a limb and said, this is what I'm doing. This guy's getting 411 days, even though he deserves 100 years. That's all going to come out. It has to, because there isn't a person right now, whether it's, I'm trying to stay even keel here, but whether it's Republican, left, far left, liberal, whatever it is, there isn't one person that can sit in a same room with Steve Federico and with Chris Hansen and say, hey, soft on crime works, because it doesn't.
It just doesn't. I mean, I've seen it over and over again. And there's certain people who are incorrigible. And again, I'm not pretending it's easy to predict criminal behavior, but I know what I know. And that is somebody who escalates to a certain level is not going to regress. They're going to continue committing violent crimes until they get caught.
Yeah, he hit the jackpot with Logan, and his crimes got more extensive as the years went by. He was a known thief, a known burglar, known to have weapons, known drug addict. He's stealing cars all the time, burglarizing homes at night. Eventually it was going to escalate to what it did. We used to have this 3-strike rule, which I think 3 strikes is still too much, but really somebody should have informed America that it went to a 39-strike rule. 40's it. 40's your max. And when you kill somebody, now we're going to take it seriously.
What will you miss most about your daughter, Logan?
You just killed me there.
I'm sorry. I don't want to put you through the ringer, Steve, but I do want people to know that this was a loving daughter who meant the world to you and the rest of your family.
It's okay. It's okay. This is my mission now, Chris. This is my mission. This is my baby girl. Am I supposed to just stand back and bury my head in the sand and take?
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. I'm her father. I'm a protector. And I failed her. I owe her this.
Well, you didn't fail her, Steve. The criminal justice system and those judges failed her. That's who failed her. You're nothing but a good father.
She was one of the most beautiful personalities. And what I will miss the most are our talks about the Eagles game, our days looking forward to the Eagles game. We have this thing called Logan's Crew. They're texts that her and her friends we all stay in touch with. And that's not easy, because whatever they do, Logan would be doing right now. But we send Logan off to a mountain house in Tennessee for her 22nd birthday. And I think they all wanted to go out on the way home after it. And there's this little quote they put in the card for me that said, "No, I can't. I promised my dad I'd come home to watch the Eagles game with him." But that's the type of relationship we had. We would lay in my room, in my bed, watch TV, and we would watch TikToks, and we would just laugh our butts off, to be honest with you, Chris. She was hysterical. Her laugh was infectious. She would just brighten the room. But there isn't a single thing that I could say I would miss other than her presence being here. And she was going to make a difference in the world. She wanted to be an elementary school teacher. She realized that, last year when she babysat every day our next door neighbors, she was the type of person, and I've said this, I know I keep saying this, she was the type of person that America needed. She was going to make a difference. She cared. She was going to help people grow and mold them into being good people,
Well, Steve, I pray that fond memories and the passage of time will be your friends. I think what you're doing is admirable, and I'm here for you, whatever I can do to help out. I appreciate you taking time to be on the show and having a seat with me, and I'll stay in touch with you, and whatever you need, just let me know.
Thank you so much. And I really do appreciate everything you're doing in your whole career. And I would have loved to have met you in other circumstances.
I couldn't agree with you
And
more, but you're stuck with me now. So God
thank
bless
you.
you.
That,
All right,
a
sir.
good person to be
Thanks.
stuck with.
I'll do my best for you. I promise. Steve
Thank you, sir.
Federico, father of Logan Federico, unnecessarily the victim of a crime in South Carolina. I appreciate, Steve, you having a seat with me. Thank you, and God bless. We will stay on top of this case, and I think a lot of questions need to be answered. Questions from the judicial branch in South Carolina. We'll see you next time on Have a Seat with Chris Hansen.